What's happening, everybody? On today's show, we're going to run through some SEC burning questions with our buddy Chris Marler as the season starts to wind down. Sad face. And we'll preview all the games this weekend as we have a few sneaky matchups amid a bunch of duds. Locked on SEC starts, right?
You are Locked On SEC, your daily podcast on the Southeastern Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into Locked On SEC. Great to have you guys along. Today's episode is presented by LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. I'm Chris Gordy. Thanks for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. And remember, Locked On SEC is free and available on all platforms, including YouTube and lockedonsec.com. All right, let's waste no time. Let's jump into it. Welcome in our buddy Chris Marler from the College Football Uncensored podcast. Marler, we got 2 weeks left of the regular season.
I hate everything about what you just said. It's awful. It's awful.
Well, let's jump into it because I got some burning questions for you, and I want to jump into it because as the season starts to wind down, we got a lot of questions. So let's jump into this one first, Marler. SEC burning question. Does LSU have any chance to give Georgia a game in the SEC title game?
I would think they have a chance. It's LSU, right? Surely the moment won't be too big for them. And also, I will say that there are a few teams in the SEC and maybe the country that have a just innate swagger and confidence built into you just because of where you're the team on your chest, the logo on your helmet, and just the state where you're from. I don't think they're going to be intimidated by Georgia. I don't know if they're, how much can Harold Perkins do? Can he play receiver?
Punt return, kickoff return. Just use them in every spot. It is an interesting stat, though. Kirby Smart is 0-2 against LSU since he's been at Georgia. So, and they've been kind of lopsided games.
They've not kind of lopsided games. They've been very lopsided games. All 4 of his losses in the SEC, or on SEC road games, are to SEC West teams, and they've all been by double digits. Also, let's not forget, I know they won the national title. I think they're the best team in the country right now. But he's been very bad in this building.
Yeah. Well, the Oregon game was pretty good.
Well, yeah, but all of the other – I'll tell you what, he's been very bad in this building not facing Bo Nix dressed up as a highlighter. How about that?
It's true. It's true. It turns out Bo Nix as a highlighter is pretty good. But
yeah, it's fair.
But, they blew that one against Washington. Our next burning question, Josh Heupel, Brian Kelly, Kirby Smart. Who should win SEC Coach of the Year in your opinion?
They're going to give it to Heupel, and I wouldn't really argue against it. Kirby's going to get – he won't finish in the top 3, I wouldn't think, at this point.
He should, though. Considering you won the title, you lost all you did. Pretty darn good job of reloading. And
well, let me see if I'm doing this right, because I've heard this from fans forever. It's not even how good of a coach he is. He's not that great of a coach. He just has all the best players. It's just recruiting. Also, it's the coordinators that are under him. It's not the actual coaching from Kirby. No, I think you're right. I think Kirby has surpassed Saban and everyone else in the country as the best coach in not just for actual coaching, but running that program. He is killing it. So I don't think there's anyone in the country that can match that. But at the same time, Heupel is a feel-good story, and also Brian Kelly. I think Heupel will get it over Brian Kelly just because Brian Kelly is somehow less likable, I think, from from a media perspective, even though I love him. I think he's been great.
I'll say this, the Florida State loss to me it was week 1 and they lost on a missed extra point. That I kind of throw that one out the window for LSU, even though it is a loss. My question is, how much do you value LSU's win over Ole Miss? Because that's really the difference maker. Both Tennessee and LSU beat Alabama. That's by far is their best win on both their schedules. So look at, Tennessee's resume. They beat, was it Pittsburgh when they were ranked? That was a good win. But LSU's a really, really good one as well. Now, it was at home. So again, what do you think of that win? It's a top 10, top 12 win, whatever. But how much does that weigh in your mind versus what Heupel's done? And of course, Heupel's looked very flashy. Hendon Hooker's been outstanding. They just hung 66 on Mizzou. So again, I don't think you can go wrong with either guy, but I know a lot of Tennessee fans are pretty strong about Heupel should win it.
Tennessee fans are pretty strong about anything involving an opinion on that school and that program for sure. So especially on social media. No, I think you could give it to either because nobody thought Brian Kelly would be here this early.
Right.
And my dumbass had him ranked 7th in division preseason. I don't know what I was thinking. It's by far the worst take I had all year. But at the same time, I think I think you give it to Heupel because that program has been in the depths of just hell for 15 years. And Brian Kelly, nobody gave him a shot at being able to do this, but I don't really know why, because he's been a fantastic coach his entire career.
He's won everywhere he's been. And if you give it to Heupel, you could almost say collectively last year and this year combined, what he's done is light years ahead of what Tennessee was the prior 5 years. So
I will
kind of like a lifetime achievement award for the last 2 years.
Yeah, I like that. I will say also, I would give it to Jimbo Fisher for one reason and one reason only. Because the just selflessness he's had all year of being so bad at his job and play calling, especially. It's the only reason why Bill O'Brien probably still has a job.
And credit to Jimbo, standing your ground, coach. Don't let them boys wear sleeves. Come on.
I just listen. I was wearing 2 sweatshirts and I had a hot hand in my pants. I'll say that.
Teach them a lesson. You can't wear sleeves, boy. Get out there. That's Jimbo's mentality. All right, well, let's slide it in. You were in Auburn over the weekend. The next burning question: should Auburn consider hiring Cadillac Williams as their full-time head coach?
I really don't like the fact that you said let's slide it in. Here's the next burning question, especially after the conversation about the hot hands in my pants. But yes, I think he should be considered because. But what does considered mean? You're going to give him an interview. It's a really tough situation because I don't think he's a viable candidate for them. I don't think he's a legitimate candidate, and I don't think that he should be either, just because he has so little experience. And this has to be a very good hire if you're Auburn. And it's not saying he hasn't done a great job in this very short time. They showed fight against Mississippi State. They lost, and they beat an A&M team at home by 3 points. So I think it's great, and he's getting the program into a more stable place, and they're having fun again, right? Everyone is Bo Nix in the stands. They're all having fun again. But at the same time, this hire, you're probably going to hire the person that may outlast Saban, that may still be your head coach by the time Saban retires. And if you take this seriously and you nail it, and you don't do what you did last time and the time before that, you might be in a really good position where you can swing the balance of power in the state back to where it used to be before Saban got there.
Yeah, to use a baseball analogy, it's like Cadillac just found a way to get a base hit. All right, he got on base and celebrated, but we want a home run. That's what the next Auburn head coach needs to be. It needs to be hit the name out of the park. Our next SEC burning question, Marler: should Alabama part ways with both coordinators this offseason? Bill O'Brien and Pete Golding.
I just don't listen. The Pete Golding stuff. I don't get it as much. There's been times when you can be frustrated at maybe some of the play calls. LSU, when he decided to only put one defensive lineman on the field in some I don't know what package he was running, a 1-6-4. I don't even know what that is. That sounds like a double play. What are we doing right now? One defensive lineman. Besides that, I don't really have any issues with Pete Golding. Alabama's ranked higher in almost every single defensive statistic this year than they were a season ago. They're still ranked in the top 20 in almost every single category. So I don't think the sky's falling there. That being said, Bill O'Brien, I just think it's probably time for not saying he's been horrible at his job or he deserves all of the scrutiny that he gets, because he doesn't. But yeah, it's probably to get somebody else in there, maybe some fresh blood, because the amount of close games that we have can't happen.
It seems like this is going to be one of those situations where they find him a job. It's going to seem like a promotion. Oh, Bill O'Brien's got a head coaching job somewhere. Hey, good for you.
Georgia Tech.
But it's really a mutual, hey, man, get your ass out the door. Our next burning question, Marler: will there be any SEC head coaching changes this offseason? We know Eli Drinkwitz just got a raise, so he's staying. Brian Harson's already been fired. Any chance any other SEC coach could not be back next year?
I mean, whoever Auburn hires could absolutely still be fired in this offseason, even before he coaches a single game. That's just the Auburn way. No, I don't think so. It's a very odd year when like that sneaky, 5 o'clock news dump extension of Drinkwitz was something else. Now I will say you may see a coach leave, obviously, with the rumors about Kiffin. I wonder if Mark Stoops thinks about leaving and going somewhere else because of how that fan base has been pretty upset. And I feel like this is probably the first time he's had to deal with like expectations and not met them. Now he also did just sign an extension as well last year, I think. So I think everyone just stays put.
Yeah, and look, expectations have been raised at Kentucky, but they're not out of this world. Like they're not going to run him out of town. He can win 9 games next year and they'll love him again and all that. Whereas like if he takes a Wisconsin job, the minute you win 7 games there, they're ready to run you out of town. So
Right.
I think you're right. I think everybody stays put. All right, last burning question, Marler. Who should win the Heisman?
Right now, I think, oh man, I almost just automatically said Hendon Hooker because I've been saying it all year. But Drake May, man, like the numbers he's put up and how important he's been to that team. I admittedly don't understand. Like, I don't think anyone's on the same page as what the Heisman's supposed to be about. It's like, is it the MVP, the one that's like the best player in the country? Is it the player that means the most to his team? Is it a white defensive end that had less sacks than somebody else in his own position, but his mom was hot, so they brought him to New York just because of it, because he looks like Ivan Drago? I don't know. People don't forget. I think Drake May deserves it over CJ Stroud. And it's not to say that CJ Stroud's been bad, but he's been bad at least once. He was bad against Northwestern, and Drake May hasn't been bad at all.
You're not fooling anybody stacking numbers against Indiana, right? Like, come on. Like the Heisman has to mean something. It can't just be, look at all these great numbers I put up against bad teams. Like,
yeah. And the running back from Michigan too. Like it's a weird thing where it feels like the Big Ten is going to end up with a little bit more postseason love than the SEC. But it's all from those 2 teams. That's it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they're a 2-team conference, and they may argue the SEC is a little top heavy this year, but it is what it is. All right, Marlo, you were off the hot seat. When we return, we are going to jump into previewing some of the games this week in SEC Week 12. Thank you guys again for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. This episode is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. Look, these days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. The holiday season is almost here. That means you need to be finding the right people for your team faster and for free. Head to linkedinjobs.com/lockedoncollege. They will give you all the simple tools you need, like screening questions, making it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to hire and interview. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs, they help you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Go post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. And as the season winds down, guys, it is time to start talking bowls. And Houston's biggest college football event returns December 28th with the Tax Act Texas Bowl. Don't miss out on your chance to be a part of the passion, the pageantry, and the fun as the college football season draws to a close with the Big 12 taking on the SEC in a primetime showdown at NRG Stadium with conference bragging rights on the line. Tickets will go on sale Sunday, December 4th at taxacttexasbowl.com. But you can visit the website today and join the priority wait list now to get your first chance to buy tickets and exclusive discounts. taxacttexasbowl.com. Tailgating, live music, great food and drinks, and the spirit and energy that makes college football so much fun will be on full display for a fantastic night of college football. That's December 28th in prime time at NRG Stadium. taxacttexasbowl.com for all the details and to sign up for the priority wait list. That's taxacttexasbowl.com. Rolling along here, Locked On SEC, and continuing our conversation with our buddy Chris Marler from the College Football Uncensored podcast. And Marler, as we get into it, SEC Week 12, we'll start with just some of the, I'll just run through some of these games. You just give me a very quick thought, very brief thought on just a few of them because some of these have no interest at all. 11 a.m. Central, it's 7-3 Austin Peay at number 9 Alabama on ESPN+.
Austin, sit down to pee. I just listen. I don't know. I don't get Bryce hurt. if you're a Bama fan, like I will say, this is the only thought I have. Enjoy the first half because that's the second to last time you are ever going to watch Will Anderson and Bryce Young play on that field and in that uniform again.
So you think they're both going to play in the Iron Bowl, right?
Yeah, and then but they're not going to play in a bowl game.
Right. Yeah, so this might be the get Jalen Milroe some experience to get him ready for the bowl game, right?
No, this cannot be that. It needs to be get Will Anderson 78 sacks, just like have him come off the edge unglued repeatedly, and then have Bryce throw for like 18 touchdowns.
All right. Also at 11 a.m. Central, it is 3-7 East Tennessee State at 6-4 Mississippi State on ESPN Plus.
That'd be a hell of a baseball game, I feel like, or like a women's basketball game. I have no feeling on this. I mean, I guess Mississippi State needs to bounce back because apparently Mike Leach is on the hot seat. It's kind of shocking too, because if you're Mississippi State and you've been an 8-4 program your entire existence, you go hire somebody that's been also an 8-4 coach his entire existence. You kind of thought that would be a match made in heaven. Just
what did you expect? Right. No, I mean, they'll win this one, but if he loses the Egg Bowl, it's a 7-5 season, and maybe they think about making a change. 11 a.m. Central, we've got 1-9 UMass at 3-7 Texas A&M on ESPN Plus. I don't know about you, Marler. I want to watch this one. I think UMass is 1-9. They got a shot.
There's no part of me that ever wants to watch UMass play anything outside of basketball in 1995, and that's it. Just if Marcus Camby's not involved, I don't want to watch anything involving UMass. God, it's just the worst colors too. Just that gross, like purplish maroon. This is gonna be an awful game. But it would be also hilarious if UMass wins. Here's the only thought I have on it. One, is everyone going to be warm enough and not wearing sleeves like in that College Station weather? Because Jimbo, even though he shops at or Cracker Barrel, is very stingy when it comes to long sleeves. Your quarterback situation last week, you had 13 straight incompletions. I mean, maybe make a change again. I don't know. Like maybe just put Jimbo's kid out there. I don't know.
Yeah. Guys, we're gonna put Connor Wegman and Haynes King both back there at the same time. Let's mix it up.
It might be better.
Don't lose this one, Aggies. This is the one. They're 33.5 point favorites, by the way. I know UMass is terrible, but that's a lot. Like Aggies could win 31-0, and UMass covers that line.
Like they did in the start of the year against Sam Houston State.
Yeah, sure. So we'll see. The other early game, it is 6-4 Florida at 4-6 Vandy on the SEC Network. Florida, a 2-touchdown favorite. This one, I actually think, like Vandy, got a little confidence. Mike Wright was back in their quarterback. They won, snapped the 26-game SEC losing streak, beating Kentucky last week. Vandy's playing with a little confidence. Florida's been looking good. That run game was dominant last week, but I think this one could be entertaining.
I think actually it will be entertaining because Vandy has some level of explosiveness on offense. They have all season. They also have some ability to kind of turn you over and take the ball away and put you in a bad spot. This game should always be played in Vandy. I'll make you a bet right now. There is no chance it's not either extremely overcast or raining during this game because it has been every time these two have ever played in Nashville. 2, I was so happy for Mike Wright and Vandy winning that game last week against that awful Kentucky team. Even though I know it's probably still going to boost Will Levis's stock after the loss. But my main takeaway, the human flaccid penis that is Clark Lee, that's exactly what it looks like. He's a good looking dude, but still, he said at media days that if they expect to win against Bama, Ole Miss, Georgia, and teams like that. So if they did win, they weren't going to celebrate at all because that's what they expect to do. He won against Kentucky last week at home and he cried.
Yeah.
I respect it, but come on, bro.
No. It's been a long season for Vandy. They need something to celebrate. If you were betting, would you take Florida -14 initial blush?
For sure. Okay.
I
would also take the over too.
Last of the crappy games, 6:30 Central on ESPNU. It's 4-5 New Mexico State at 4-6 Mizzou. Missouri, a 28.5 point favorite. Nobody's going to watch this game.
No.
Not even Mizzou.
Also, Mizzou's the only team in the SEC that as soon as you said ESPNU, I was like, that's got to be Missouri. That's just got to be Missouri. I don't understand. It makes no sense to me. Anyway, yeah, Mizzou looked good for 25 minutes of that game against Tennessee last week. My only takeaway for this one, I don't know what's coming on after this game on ESPNU. It's probably like Chase or whatever it is. Like they have like games of tag now on ESPN during the day.
Yeah. Behind the scenes of the Clemson program, like they do stuff like that.
If I turn on the channel and I see Mizzou has like 8 minutes left before the game that is supposed to come on after that, and they're calling timeouts and they're down or up 30, I will drive to Columbia and I will fight Eli Drinkwitz.
You want to know why this game is important, though, Marler? A win gets them to 5-6. They will have a big game against Arkansas next week. But even if they lose that, because they are so good in the academic progress rate standing, 5-7 should get them a bowl invite if there's not enough 6-6 teams. So this is a big win. If Mizzou can win this one, they could still be bowl eligible at 5-7. So
I hope that if that happens, that'd be great, because I'm not like one to pile on Mizzou. I do like Mizzou, and their fans are great. But I hope that whoever they have to draw in that bowl game is like the same crappy team that I hope it's New Mexico State, or I hope it's UMass.
It's not going to be UMass. UMass is 1-9.
Remember last year when they made him play Army, and it was like, oh my God, what a nightmare scenario for that terrible defense.
And they lost. It was Brady Cook getting his first taste of quarterback. All right, Marler, we're going to get into some of the better games in just a second coming up here on Locked On SEC. Thank you guys again for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. Want to remind you about our friends over at BetOnline. BetOnline.net is your number one source for your sports betting info, your stats, news, and analysis throughout the remainder of this season, and also for the start of college basketball. You get all the latest odds and trends for every pro and amateur league out there. Like I said, from basketball to football to soccer, even esports, they've got it all up at betonline.net. And if you love sports podcasts, they've got those up as well. Always the fastest and easiest way for you to get your betting fix. Head on over to their website today. You can do so on your mobile device. It's the easiest thing. Just start your day off, open your mobile device, go to betonline.net. You'll get all the pieces you need to get ready to make your weekend bets. And that is up at BetOnline as well. BetOnline, it is where the game starts. Try them today. And again, bowl season right around the corner. You want to make sure you're making some of those games interesting. The matchups, not as sexy. They become more sexy if you're using betonline.net and getting in on the action. betonline.net. All right, one more segment with our buddy Chris Marler from the College Football Uncensored podcast. And Marler, let's get into a couple of games. We did 5. We got 5 more. There's a lot of games in the SEC this week, but let's just get your thoughts quickly on a few of these. We'll start with 3 p.m. Central. This is an intriguing one. It's 7-4 Western Kentucky at 4-6 Auburn on the SEC Network. Auburn is a 5.5-point favorite. To me, this is a big one for Cadillac. Like, beat Western Kentucky. Come on.
So I did not realize that this gives a 5.5-point line. I always bring this up, and I saw it like 12 years ago, and it's stuck with me ever since. And I'm pretty sure the more that I've referenced it, which is every time I see this line, I probably am wrong, like even more wrong than I was the last time I brought it up. But I'm pretty sure 12 years ago I saw a stat that said over the course of every single NFL and college football season since the year 2000. If you have a 5.5 or 5-point favorite, those teams are not covering in 73% of the game and losing outright in 58% of them.
Wow.
If anybody challenges me on that, please don't. That being said, like that's a dangerous spot for them. Like the good news for Cadillac, if he loses, if Auburn will do what Auburn always does, which is, fought until the end, man. And talk about how great the Eagle flew and how they believe in Auburn still and they love it. And they are past the point of being embarrassed about losses at this point.
Now, Western Kentucky, by the way, they're 7-4 in the season. They got blown out by North Texas a few weeks ago, but their other 3 losses in overtime at Indiana, close loss to Troy, and close loss at UTSA. So
I like that.
4 losses were all close. Western's a pretty good team. So
Auburn is not. They've been playing better in areas that make no sense for them to be playing better, like on the offensive line and the defensive line. Carnell has nothing to do with that. The only thing I hope that happens in this game is that Brian Harsin shows up in just standing in on the top of the stadium in like a long black trench coat and like Sting face paint with like a bat and just terrifying everyone for the last home game of the year.
He could just put his aviators on and come out with the cops on the field. That's kind of where he belongs. He fits in that crowd.
Sure.
Let's get into a few of the other ones. We'll save the CBS game of the week in just a second. But how about 7 p.m. Eastern? It is number 5 Tennessee at 6-4 South Carolina on ESPN. Tennessee, a 21.5-point favorite. SEC Nation is going there. This is all just for Hendon Hooker to continue to put up stats for his Heisman and Josh Heupel to keep putting up tons of points to try to convince the playoff committee they deserve to be in, even though they're not playing for an SEC title.
You're not even playing for a division title. And for me personally, that's where I draw the line. If you don't play for the conference title because you don't win your division, I don't think you should be allowed in, especially if you're Tennessee. No, I think that from a betting standpoint, I don't care what the line is. It could be like 30, but Tennessee to cover the first half spread. I was a little bit surprised they kind of sleptwalk early in that game against Mizzou. They haven't really struggled that much on the road this year, so I'm not worried about that. I think that this is like Heupel understands, one, what they have to like the style points, and then two, getting Hendon like a Heisman would be, or even getting to the Heisman ceremony would be a huge accomplishment for him in year 2.
Yeah, and for poor South Carolina, they got to finish with Tennessee and Clemson. Like, you're 6-4, probably going to finish 6-6, which is what they did a year ago. But man, this 6-6 feels a lot compared to what Shane Beamer did a year ago.
Yeah, I mean that schedule is never going to be easy. I didn't understand why everyone was so high on them in Arkansas before the season started, but yeah, they had to open with Georgia, dude. They closed with these two. They had to open with Georgia.
Yeah, and did anybody think like Clemson was just going to fall off the face of the earth? They're still pretty good, and still trying to play for an ACC title and maybe a shot in the playoff. All right, 6:30 Central. It is number 11 Ole Miss at 5-5 Arkansas on the SEC Network. Ole Miss just a 2.5-point road favorite. Maybe we're expecting KJ Jefferson back for Arkansas, but that's Ole Miss. They've fancied themselves as a top 10 team all year. That seems like a low number.
Yeah, I mean, how do they bounce back? Like, because everything that I've seen from that game against Alabama, like the game was stolen from them for one, for sure. And Jackson Dart, I'm not sure if his head is even on his body at this point because of just how brutal the face mask penalty was from Dallas Turner. Listen, it's Tuesday when we're recording this, and Kiffin's still talking about that part of it. Also, I'm not sure if you've been keeping up with Flight Tracker season.
No, I haven't. Is he going to Auburn?
I mean, they are in discussion, and like at least somebody's flying a plane from Auburn to Ole Miss. They've done it twice in the past 2 days, so it could just be some asshole that has a private jet, which is a solid move.
Yeah,
and an incredible troll. But the 2.5-point spread, I wouldn't touch because like Arkansas's weakness is the pass defense, right? That's not what Ole Miss does on offense. Like that's not what their forte is. You saw it a week ago as the worst looking line of the whole week. It was like, why is LSU only a 3-point favorite? And then they won by exactly 3. So I would stay away from the betting part of this. But I wouldn't be surprised if Ole Miss comes out, lays a dud, and Kiffin announces shortly after that he's leaving.
Man, that's
like at halftime.
Prediction, but what a like from being undefeated a few weeks ago, thinking you have a chance to run the table, win the SEC, and make the playoff. It's suddenly losing 3, and then you lose your coach. That would be a high wave of emotions for Ole Miss fans. All right, let's get into it. Marler, the SEC game of the week, 3:30 Eastern. It's number 1 Georgia at number 24 Kentucky on CBS. Georgia, 22.5-point road favorite.
Yeah, and it probably should be more. Man, like this closes so well for Stetson Bennett because it's so much fun that like he kind of gets to go on his own personal berries and cream celebration dance on all these like better quarterbacks that like you've heard about being like top 10 picks. You got Anthony Richardson, you got Hendon Hooker, and you got what's his name, Will Levis. Will Levis he's just been so bad. He's been so bad. But there is one silver lining here because in 16 of his 21 total starts at Kentucky, he's had at least one interception. I brought it up last week. Chris Rodriguez not much better at holding onto the football, even though he had a big game a week ago. I don't know if they were looking ahead to Georgia. I don't know why they would be because they've been dominated by Georgia for the last 6 years since Kirby's been there. Will Levis played the best game of his life like against Georgia last year. No interceptions. Does that happen again? I don't know.
It was close for a half, right? Like they hung around for a while, and then
so there's some commotion and some whispers around the state of Georgia and the message boards that have said Kirby has circled this one on the calendar, which I don't know why he would. But you remember last year in that game, Kentucky covered the spread because they called 2 timeouts on the goal line with less than 30 seconds to go.
That's what it was.
So does Kirby get revenge on that? I don't know why he would, but I think it's going to be a blowout either way.
Yeah, it was 14-7 at the half last year. So Kentucky hung around, and then Georgia pulled away, outscored them 16-6 in the second half. But is this a look ahead spot? Is Georgia looking ahead to Georgia Tech next week? And
yeah, I mean, listen. First off, that rivalry, clean old fashioned hate. That is the Mizzou, Tennessee of the rivalry week.
Why are we playing that? That needs to go away. That's not.
No, don't say that. First off, Georgia Tech beat them like in Kirby's first year.
Look, it's playoff expansion time, Marler. We're doing away with all traditional rivalries. We're throwing them all out the window. Get used to it.
I just need Georgia Tech to still be a program. I need Bill O'Brien to take that job and leave me alone, and then turn that program around.
Look, South Carolina, Texas. Get with it. That's the new rivalry. We're going to start.
Oh, God. Wait, hold on real quick. Let me ask you, I know we got to go, but what is the one rivalry game do you think Greg Sankey tries to force on us this time around for expansion? I pray it's Vandy and like Oklahoma.
Oh yeah, like I don't know. I think I'm gonna go with the pod thing. So like the one that I've seen most that would benefit is I think South Carolina. I want to say some of the mock pods out there have them getting like Vanderbilt. I forget what it is, but like there's a few teams out there like one for A&M. They're like their permanent pod should be Texas, Oklahoma, and LSU. I'm like that sucks for A&M. Like that's a brutal pod, but I don't know. We'll see.
I mean, I don't think geography is going to really have to go into it. Bama's going to get Vandy, and then probably South Carolina. They'll get Vandy twice for sure. That same pod. It'll just keep them in the pod.
The Iron Bowls, you keep Auburn, and I think the Tennessee rivalry, you keep them, and then probably get Vandy for good measure. So Bama, that'll work out. But we'll see. We have 3 years to talk about that still.
Oh Jesus! I'll probably be watching football at that point. Saban will be retired. I'll quit.
Yeah, Big Ten football will be on CBS, and it won't even matter. So we'll all just be rolling over in our graves watching Northwestern versus Iowa on the CBS.
I can't tell you how much I hate the fact that you opened this podcast by saying that we have 2 weeks left of football, and then closed it by bringing up the Big Ten being on CBS. So I'm going to leave.
By the way, is Gary Danielson okay? What the hell was that on? Did you see that on Saturday?
I just the amount of people that made the comment about it, he seems like he's sad because Bama's losing. Gary loves Bama. Now Gary just loves talking and saying words incorrectly. That's all Gary loves.
He does get them wrong, but we wish him the best. All right, Marler, thanks for the time, man. We'll do this again next week.
We will not if you keep up that attitude.
All right, that's Chris Marler. Follow him on social media at Vern Fun Quiz. Always fun talking college football and SEC with him. All right, thank you guys again for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. For your second listen, check out the Locked On Sports Today podcast, from the games that matter to the most of the biggest stories in sports. You go beyond the scoreboard, behind the scenes with local experts and insights only Locked On can provide. Locked On Sports Today, available on this app, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Chris Gordy. This has been Locked On SEC. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow for a whole new edition talking all things SEC football. Have a great day.